Welcome. If you enjoy these stories, please like, share and subscribe. For a bit of fun, comment where you're from and what time you're watching this video. Now lie back, relax and let sleep consume you. Night road stretched ahead, black and empty. Engine noise was a steady drone. Tires hummed on the tarmac. Hours driving, headlamps cut through the dark. Just wanted to reach the next stop. Find somewhere to rest. Eyes were tired. Road seemed to go on forever. Then on the verge, shape of a person, pulled over slowly. Young woman stood there, looked lost and scared by the roadside lights, leaned across, window wound down. She approached, hesitant, big eyes, pale face, nodded when I asked if she needed help. Opened the passenger door, she climbed in quick, door shut, quiet inside the cab now, just engine noise again. Glanced over, she sat still, hands in her lap, seemed very young. Dark clothes, small bag at her feet, started driving again, back onto the black road. Silence for a while. She stayed still, eyes straight ahead. Then she turned to me. Quiet voice asked where I was going, told her next town along, few hours more. She nodded, then another question, how long had I been driving trucks? Answered her, years. More silence. Outside just darkness rushing past. Inside, small cab felt close. She shifted in her seat, then another question, about my family, if I had any. Felt a bit odd, personal question from a stranger, said I did. She asked more about my home, where it was, what it was like. Each question a little more personal than the last. Started to feel uneasy. Why did she need to know all this? Tried to change the subject, asked her where she was headed. She just looked at me, eyes wide. Didn't answer, just asked another question about me, what my wife did, children's names. It was strange, very strange. Started to feel properly nervous now. Something was not right. These were not normal questions. Who was this girl? Why was she so interested in my life? It felt peculiar, the way she kept asking, never answering anything about herself. The questions kept coming, each one feeling sharper, more intrusive, like she was trying to get inside my head. My skin crawled, wanted her out of my truck, but we were miles from anywhere. Middle of nowhere. Drove on faster now, wanted to reach the next town. Get to lights, people. She remained quiet for a moment, then she asked if I traveled this road often. Said sometimes. She then asked if I always picked up people. Said never. This was the only time. She just stared ahead again, out into the darkness. The question stopped for a bit. But the air inside the cab felt different, charged, like something was about to happen. My hands gripped the steering wheel tighter. Finally saw the lights of a service station up ahead. Pulled in, relieved to stop. Needed fuel anyway, and wanted to get away from her for a moment. Needed some space, switched off the engine. Silence except for the ticking of the engine cooling. Got out, stretched my legs, went to fill up with diesel. Glanced back at the cab. She was still inside, not moving. Went into the service station shop to pay. Bright lights inside, shelves full of things. Needed a coffee too, paid for the fuel, then near the till saw it, a poster on the wall, bright colours, picture of a girl, missing person, stopped to look properly, the face, it was her, the girl in my truck, read the words on the poster, name, age, missing since last year. Last year? My blood ran cold. This girl in my truck, she was missing for over a year. It made no sense, but it was her face, no doubt, the same big eyes, pale face, heart started to race, felt sick, what was going on? Who was she? How could she be in my truck if she was missing for a year? It was impossible, but the poster, the picture, it was her. Had to get back to the truck, had to see her, see if it was really her, or if I was imagining things. Rushed out of the shop, back to the forecourt. Truck was there, cab door still shut, pulled open the driver door, jumped inside. Hey, I started to say, wanted to ask her about the poster, wanted answers, but the passenger seat was empty. She was gone. Just gone. Door was still locked on her side. Window up. Nowhere to go. 1 minute she was there, next minute empty seat. Looked around the small cab. Nothing, just my things, usual clutter. Then I saw it. Something glinting in the seat where she had been. Leaned closer. Knife. Small, sharp knife wedged deep into the fabric of the seat. Handle sticking up. Cold steel. Reached out, touched the handle. Pulled it free. Sharp blade, small and deadly. Held it in my hand, stared at the empty seat. Where had she gone? How and why the knife? The service station lights seemed very bright now, too bright. Everything felt wrong. The empty seat, the knife in my hand, the missing person poster in my head. Sat there, engine off, just the silence again, and a deep, cold feeling inside. Looked out at the black road ahead. Darkness stretching on and on. Night driving never bothers me, until tonight. The road stretched ahead, empty, just trees either side, dark shapes against the darker sky. Then walking up ahead, a shape took form. An old man, he looked small, lost. I slowed the car, wound the window down. He shuffled over as I called out, offered him a lift. He nodded once, opened the door, got in. He sat beside me, still quiet, didn't say thank you, didn't say anything, just stared straight ahead. I checked him in my side mirror, wrinkled face, pale eyes, clothes grey and dusty. I pulled back onto the road, picked up speed. Silence filled the car. It wasn't comfortable silence. Something about him just sat wrong. Miles passed. Each mile the silence deepened. I turned the radio on low, hoping for some noise, anything. Static crackled from the speakers. No signal out here. I switched it off. Silence returned, heavier now than before. He still stared ahead, not moving a muscle. Then his hand lifted slowly, pointed towards the right. Just a gap in the trees. No road sign. Just a dirt track disappearing into blackness. I glanced at him, his pale eyes fixed on mine for a split second, then back to the track. "Where are you going?" I asked, voice sounding too loud in the quiet car. He didn't answer, hand still pointed. Dirt track, drawn in by some force I couldn't explain, I indicated, turned off the road. The car bumped onto rough ground, headlights cut through the trees, illuminating dust and branches. This was stupid, really stupid. Middle of nowhere, dark, with a silent old man who wouldn't speak. I should turn back. But I kept driving. The track wound deeper into the trees. The air got colder. Deeper darkness pressed in around the car. Then through the trees, a light. Not street lights. A light from a window, a house. The track opened into a small space in front of the house. It looked old. Windows dark except for one downstairs. No other cars, no signs of anyone else around. Just the house, the trees and us. The old man pointed at the house, then at me, a gesture. "Get out." I shook my head. I reached for the gear stick, ready to turn around, get back to the main road. Before I could move, the driver's side door opened. Pulled open hard. I jumped, spun round. Two men stood there, faces hidden in the dim light. Big men, blocking the doorway. The old man was out of the car now, standing beside them, watching. Panic shot through me. I shoved the gear stick into drive, foot down. The car lurched forward, not forward, sideways. Front wheel dipped, flat tire, back tire flat too. They got to the tires already. Impossible. I scrambled across the seats, pushed the passenger door open and ran into the trees, away from the house, away from the men. Branches whipped at my face, tore at my clothes. I didn't stop running and didn't look back, just ran into the darkness, into the trees. The drive back seemed to take forever. Road lights blurred past the window, each one a flash in the dark. I was tired after days away for work. Then I noticed someone by the side of the road. Hood up, face hidden. They stuck a thumb out. I don't usually stop, but something made me. The figure moved to the car. They opened the door and got in the passenger seat without a word. The hood stayed up, hiding their face in deep shadow. I pulled back onto the road. Complete silence in the car. I glanced over, but could not see anything under the hood. I looked in the rearview mirror. In the mirror I could see them clearly. They were staring right back at me. Not at the road, not out the window, just directly at me in the mirror. Their eyes were fixed on mine and stayed that way. The feeling was strange, very strange. I drove on. The stare from the mirror continued, mile after mile. It did not stop or waver. It was just constant. Those eyes locked on mine in the reflection. The silence got heavier. It felt like something pressing down in the car, even though no sound was made. I needed to say something. "Going far?" I asked, trying to sound normal. No reply, just the stare from the mirror. Those eyes fixed on me. It was starting to get to me. My skin started to crawl. This was not right. I drove faster to get to the next town. I needed to drop them off and get rid of this feeling. I could feel the stare on the back of my neck, even when looking forwards. It was like a physical touch, cold and unwanted. Eventually a gas station sign came into view. Relief washed over me. "I'm stopping here," I announced, maybe a bit too quickly. I pulled into the station. They made no sign of moving, just kept staring in the mirror. I stopped at a pump. "Here you go," I said, pointing to the station shop. Still no word. They opened the door and got out of the car, the hood still up, the face still hidden. They walked away towards the shop. I watched them go, feeling lighter as they moved further away. I filled up quickly, wanting to leave. I paid inside and got back in the car, glancing around for the hooded figure. They were nowhere to be seen. Good. I started the engine and pulled out of the station, heading for home. The drive from the station was much better. The strange feeling from the car was gone. I put on the radio and tried to forget the odd hitchhiker. Home was not far now. I was almost there, thinking of a hot bath and my own bed. I turned onto my street. Everything looked normal. Houses dark, streetlights on. My house came into view. Lights off, just as I left it. I pulled into the drive and switched off the engine. Quiet, except for the crickets. I got out of the car, stretching, ready to be inside. I walked up the path to my front door. Then I stopped. Sitting on my porch step was the hooded figure. The hood was still up, but now they were smiling. A wide, white smile in the shadow of the hood. Those eyes, I could see them now, even in the dim light, fixed on me. Still staring, I reached for the door handle, my hand shaking a little. I always lock up tight. I always check it twice, but as my fingers touched the handle, I realized something else. The door was already open. The road stretched ahead, empty and grey. Daylight was fading, the sky turning a bruised purple colour. Miles since I had passed another car. Just fields either side, bare trees reaching up like fingers. I just wanted to get home. Then I noticed him. A figure at the side of the road. As I got nearer, I could see it was a young boy. He looked thin, his shoulders hunched. He was holding a backpack, clutching it very tightly to his chest. He looked anxious, jumpy even. I hesitated for a moment, then pulled over. It wasn't really a place to leave someone stranded. He scrambled into the car, not saying a word, just nodded quickly when I asked if he was okay. He kept his backpack on his lap, fingers knotted around the straps. He stared straight ahead out of the windscreen. After a while he turned to me. His eyes were wide, too bright maybe. He asked, very quietly, if I believed in things that were not alive. I wasn't sure what he meant. I mumbled something about not really thinking about it much. He didn't respond to that. He just stared out the window again. Then a few minutes later he asked again, his voice a little louder this time. Did I believe in things that were not alive? Things that stayed after life was gone? It was starting to make me feel a bit strange. The way he kept asking, the way he looked. I changed the radio station, hoping to break the mood. He didn't seem to notice. He asked a third time, his voice almost a whisper. He turned right to face me properly. His eyes seemed to bore right into me. Did people stay here even when they were gone? Did places keep them? A shiver went down my spine. I didn't like this at all. I glanced at him. He looked so pale in the dim light of the car. I sped up a little, wanting to reach the next town, to just be somewhere else. Up ahead I recognized the signs for a rest stop. Perfect, I indicated, pulled off the road. This is probably as far as I'm going your way, I said, trying to sound normal, not as uneasy as I suddenly felt. He looked at me, those intense eyes fixed on my face. He didn't say anything. He just got out of the car, still clutching his backpack. He shut the door gently, then he just stood there, watching as I pulled away. I watched him in my mirror until he was just a tiny dot. A wave of relief washed over me as I drove on. That had been odd. Very odd. I put it down to teenagers being strange, shook my head and tried to forget about it. At the next services, I decided to stop for a coffee. As I got out of the car, I noticed something on the passenger seat. The backpack. He'd left it behind. I picked it up. It was old, worn out, canvas, faded green color. I opened it, curious now. Inside, just a few things. A jumper, folded neatly, a water bottle, empty, and a collection of papers. Folded newspapers, yellowed with age. I pulled one out. It was brittle, almost falling apart. A local newspaper. The headline jumped out at me. Tragic accident on highway. Underneath a picture, a grainy black and white picture of a young boy. My breath caught in my throat. I stared at the picture. The same pale face, the same wide eyes, the same jumper. The date on the newspaper at the top of the page was years ago, years and years. I looked back at the picture, then around at my car, at the empty passenger seat. The air seemed to get colder suddenly, the coffee forgotten in my hand. I just stood there, holding the newspaper. The image of the boy burned into my mind. The boy with the backpack who asked about ghosts. The boy who was now very much gone, but maybe still here. The sun was dropping when we noticed him, just a small figure by the side of the road. We were driving through the countryside, trees either side, fields beyond, nothing much around for miles. As we got nearer, we realized it was a child, a young boy, perhaps 6 or 7. He was on his own, walking towards the verge. We pulled the car over. Dust puffed up from the gravel. My partner Sarah turned off the engine. Silence fell except for the ticking of the cooling car and the distant sound of birds. The boy stopped walking. He stood still, facing away from us towards the fields. He wasn't wearing shoes. His feet looked grubby on the tarmac. I got out of the car. Sarah did too. We walked towards him slowly, not wanting to frighten him. He didn't turn. He didn't move at all. I called out to him gently. No reply. We got a bit nearer. I could see he was wearing shorts and a t-shirt. Thin clothes for the evening, getting colder. His hair was messy, hanging over his face. "Hello?" I said a bit louder. Still nothing. Sarah tried. "Are you all right, love?" She spoke softly, like she would to our niece. The boy remained still. It was starting to feel odd. We were only a few feet away now. I could see his back properly. Very small, his shoulder blade sticking out a little under his shirt. I took another step. "Are you lost?" I asked. No reaction. He was just a statue. Sarah stepped forward too, coming around to the side a little, trying to see his face. He turned his head then, just a fraction, enough for me to glimpse part of his face. Pale, very pale, and his eyes dark. So dark they seemed to swallow the light. He turned his head back away instantly, like he regretted even that small turn. Silence again. Just the birds, further away now, and the faint whistle of wind through the trees. This was strange, very strange. A little kid, alone, no shoes, saying nothing, doing nothing. Sarah tried again. "Where are your mum and dad, sweetheart?" She reached out a hand, slowly, like she was going to touch his shoulder. Before her hand got anywhere near, he moved, quickly, not running, but sliding away sideways, further towards the edge of the road, keeping his back to us. He stopped again a few feet away, same pose, facing the fields, motionless. We stood there, looking at him, then at each other. What should we do? We couldn't just leave him here. It was getting dark, and there was no house in sight. Just fields and trees. "Maybe he's scared," Sarah whispered. "Let's try to coax him to the car." I nodded, sounded reasonable. We moved slowly again, spreading out a little, not approaching him directly, but sort of moving to either side, trying to gently guide him towards our car. He watched us, I think, though it was hard to tell for sure, with his back mostly to us and his hair in his face. As we moved, he moved too, shuffling sideways, keeping the same distance from us, still heading towards the verge. He was like a small, scared animal trying to get away. We got him closer to the car, bit by bit. He didn't make a sound. Not a cry, not a word, not even a sniffle. Just silence and that pale face and those dark eyes when he briefly turned his head. Eventually he was right beside the car, near the back door. We stopped moving, giving him space. "Come on, love," Sarah said gently. "Let's just get you somewhere safe." She opened the back door of the car, slowly, quietly. "We can help you find your mum and dad." She kept her voice soft, reassuring. The boy didn't react. He just stood there, a few feet from the open car door. I moved a little closer, keeping my distance, but trying to encourage him. "It's okay, mate," I said, trying to sound friendly. "Just hop in the car, we'll look after you." Nothing. He was like stone. But I could sense something else, beyond just scared. Something closed off. We waited. Seconds stretched out. The sun had almost gone now, the sky turning shades of orange and grey. The air was definitely colder. Still the boy didn't move, didn't speak, didn't even seem to breathe much. It was getting genuinely unnerving. "Right," Sarah said, breaking the silence. "Enough of this. We need to do something." She took another step towards him, more decisively this time. "Come on," she said, a little firmer now, but still gentle. "Into the car." And then he did something different. He didn't slide away, he didn't stay still. He turned, properly turned, facing us, and he looked up at Sarah, and then at me. His face was fully visible now, pale like I'd noticed, but even more so, almost translucent, and his eyes, they were big and dark and empty, just black pools. He stared at us, not blinking, just staring. It wasn't the stare of a child. There was nothing childish about it. It was just intense. Empty and intense all at once. A shiver went through me, even though I couldn't explain why. There was something terribly wrong about this kid. He opened his mouth. I braced myself, expecting a scream or a sob or something, but no sound came out. His mouth just opened, a dark shape in his pale face, and stayed open, like he was trying to speak, but couldn't or wouldn't or didn't need to. The silence stretched again, broken only by the wind, which seemed to have picked up a bit, rustling the leaves in the trees. The boy just stood there, mouth open, eyes fixed on us. It was deeply unsettling. I glanced at Sarah. She looked just as disturbed as I felt. "Okay," I said, trying to sound normal, but my voice sounded thin even to my own ears. "Right, let's get to a garage, a petrol station. We can call the police from there." It seemed the only sensible thing to do. We were out of our depth. This wasn't just a lost child. This was something else. Sarah nodded quickly. She didn't say anything. She just backed away slightly from the boy, keeping her eyes on him. I did the same. We both moved towards the front of the car very slowly, still watching him. He didn't move, still staring, still silent, still with his mouth open. We got back into the car. I started the engine. The noise seemed very loud in the quiet evening. I put the car in gear and pulled away slowly at first, then picking up speed, I watched the boy in the rearview mirror. He was still there by the side of the road, standing, staring. As we drove further away, he got smaller and smaller until he was just a tiny speck in the distance. Then he was gone. We drove for maybe 15 minutes. Neither of us spoke. The silence in the car felt different now. Not just quiet, but charged, heavy. I kept glancing in the mirrors, expecting to see, I don't know what, but I couldn't shake the feeling of those black eyes staring at us. Eventually we saw lights ahead, a petrol station sign. Relief flooded through me, civilization, people. We pulled into the forecourt. It was a small place, just a single pump and a little shop attached. An attendant was sitting behind the counter reading a newspaper. I parked the car near the pump and turned off the engine. Sarah and I got out. We stretched, trying to shake off the tension. I was about to go into the shop to ask to use the phone when Sarah gasped. I turned to look at her. She was staring at the back seat of the car. He's gone, she whispered. I frowned. Who's gone? The boy, she said, her voice shaking slightly. He's not in the car. I stared at her. Then I looked at the back seat. Empty, completely empty. The door was still open, just as Sarah had left it, but the boy vanished. I walked around the car, checking both back doors, the front, nowhere. He was gone, just gone. Impossible. He hadn't got back in the car. Had he? We would have noticed. We were watching him, but he wasn't in the car now. I felt a cold dread creeping into my stomach. This wasn't right. This was really not right. I walked towards the shop, Sarah following behind me, her face pale. The attendant looked up as we came in. He was an older man with tired eyes and a grey moustache. Evening, I said, trying to sound normal, but my voice probably trembled a bit. He just nodded. I pointed to the phone on the counter. Could I use your phone, please? It's an emergency. He nodded again and pushed the phone towards me. I picked up the receiver and started to dial the police number. As I was dialing, the attendant spoke. His voice was level, without much expression. Lost something, have you? He said, looking at me. I paused, phone halfway to my ear. Well, sort of, I said, confused. We picked up a little boy on the road, and now he's disappeared from the car. The attendant's eyes narrowed slightly. He put down his newspaper and leaned forward a little. A little boy, you say? He asked. I nodded. Yes, barefoot, didn't speak. The attendant's expression changed. Something unreadable flickered across his face. He looked away for a moment, then back at me. Similar thing happened, he said, his voice quiet now. Last year, couple came in here, said the same thing, picked up a kid, vanished when they stopped. He looked at me directly then, his eyes intense. They found their car, he said, further down the road, wrecked, badly wrecked. He paused, then added, almost as an afterthought, they never found them, the couple, I mean. He just looked at me, and I looked back at him. The phone slipped from my suddenly numb fingers and clattered onto the counter. The dial tone buzzed loudly in the small shop. I stared at the attendant, and a cold, deep fear seized me. He just kept staring back. The engine droned on, eating up miles of empty road. Dusk painted the sky in bruised purples and oranges. I passed a young man thumbing for a ride. He looked harmless enough, just a kid really, so I pulled over. He was quiet, polite, asked for the ride to the next rest stop, tossed his backpack in the boot before getting in. There was something about his eyes that didn't sit right, a depth that seemed too old for his face, but I dismissed the notion. Tiredness plays tricks on you. The rest stop appeared, a neon oasis in the growing dark. He thanked me, grabbed his backpack, and disappeared inside. I continued, keen to reach my destination before night fully took hold. Later, the fuel light blinked. I pulled into a brightly lit petrol station, the harsh fluorescent lights buzzing above. I needed my bag from the boot. The key turned with a click. There it was. His backpack. Panic seized me. He hadn't taken it. Why? My hand trembled as I unzipped the bag. Rope, coarse, rough rope, a pair of gloves, the sort used for yard work. And then, glinting under the petrol station lights, a hunting knife. Its blade was long, sharp, unused. My breath hitched. I rummaged deeper, my heart hammering against my ribs. A receipt, dated that very morning. The items listed made my blood run cold. A large tarp, Duct tape. My mind raced, connecting the dots, painting a horrifying picture. The quiet young man, the forgotten backpack, the items within, each piece slotted into place, a jigsaw of dread. I slammed the boot shut, the sound echoing in the night. I stumbled back into the car, my hands shaking so violently I could barely grip the steering wheel. The engine roared to life. I needed to get away, now. The car hurtled down the road, the landscape blurring into streaks of light. I glanced in the rearview mirror, searching the darkness behind. Nothing, just the endless highway stretching out behind me. But even as I drove, a chilling realization sunk in. He knew I'd find the bag. He'd left it there on purpose. A message, a promise. I drove on, the kilometers ticking by, each one a drumbeat of terror in my ears. The petrol station, the backpack, the contents. The implications settled deep, a knot of ice in my stomach. I checked the rearview mirror again, still nothing. But the feeling remained, a constant gnawing anxiety. I was being hunted. The night deepened, the darkness pressing in around me. The road ahead was empty, but I wasn't alone, not really. He was out there somewhere. I gripped the steering wheel tighter, my knuckles white. The car sped on, swallowed by the ever-consuming black. I pulled up beside her. She stood at the curb, a figure waiting in the late afternoon light. An old suitcase rested at her feet. I leaned across, winding the window down. She looked at me, a quick glance, then nodded and hoisted the suitcase. It looked cumbersome, old leather held together by straps. She placed it on the back seat, then got in beside it. We moved off. She sat very still, hands clasped tight around the suitcase handle. The journey began. The roads were quiet, the sky turning a bruised purple grey. She remained silent, staring straight ahead through the windscreen. I glanced across a couple of instances. Her face was lined, tired maybe, but her eyes were sharp, fixed on some distant point. After a while she turned her head just a little. Not to look at me exactly, but almost towards me. She spoke, her voice quiet, barely a murmur. She wanted to know about my house, just like that. Not where I was going or if I knew the way, but about my house. I told her a few words, brick-built, small garden, nothing special. She absorbed this, then asked how long I had resided there. Another simple question, but it made me uncomfortable, like she was noting it down, storing it away. I told her it had been many years, long enough. She then wanted to understand about my family. Did I exist alone, or were there others? The questions kept coming, soft and insistent. I responded, brief answers, trying to keep the conversation minimal. I mentioned I lived alone, no one else. Her grip on the suitcase seemed to tighten. She asked about my routine. What did I do each day? This was unusual, very unusual for someone I'd just picked up. I avoided giving specifics, kept it vague. Work, home, the usual things. She pressed slightly, wanting to know what time I usually arrived home. The sun was dipping now, the light fading fast. The inside of the car was growing dimmer, the shadows deeper. I stated I had no fixed time. It varied. She was quiet again for a stretch. Just the sound of the tires on the road, the engine. The air in the car felt close. I could sense her gaze on me, though she still stared straight ahead. I checked the mirror. Nothing behind us, just empty road. Then more quietly, a whisper almost, she asked about locks. My doors. Did they lock securely? This question made a chill run down my spine. What did she mean by that? Why would she need to understand about my door locks? I mumbled something about having locks. Yes, normal locks. She didn't respond, just sat there holding on to that suitcase as if it contained something incredibly precious or incredibly dangerous. We reached the place where she wished to be dropped off. A street I did not recognize, lined with tall, dark houses. She pointed to one, half hidden behind overgrown bushes. I pulled over. She got out of the car carefully, still clutching the suitcase. She stood on the pavement, looking at the house. Then strangely she turned back to me. A small smile touched her lips, but it did not reach her eyes. Her eyes remained fixed, cold. She said, "Thank you," a bare whisper, and turned to walk towards the house. She moved down the short path, the suitcase bumping against her leg. She reached the front door, and without another look back, she went inside. The door shut behind her. I waited a moment, watching the house. It remained dark, silent. No light came on, no sound. It just stood there, solid and imposing in the fading light. Then I noticed something on the back seat. The suitcase. She had left it. Panic bubbled up. Why had she left the suitcase? The one she had held onto so tightly, the one she seemed so protective of. My heart began to race. I should just leave it, drive away, forget about it, pretend it had not happened. But curiosity, a dreadful, pulling curiosity, took hold. I reached back, my hand shaking slightly, and pulled the suitcase onto the front seat. It felt surprisingly light, lighter than it had appeared when she was carrying it. I looked at it. Old, worn leather, tarnished brass buckles. It seemed to pulse with a silent energy. I told myself to just put it back on the curb where I had collected her. Someone would find it. It wasn't my problem, but I couldn't. The questions she had asked, the way she had looked, the suitcase left behind, it all screamed that something was terribly amiss. I had to understand. I had to look inside. I drove to a quiet lane off the main road and parked. The engine off, the car was silent. Just the sound of the wind in the trees. The suitcase sat beside me on the passenger seat, waiting. My fingers trembled as I reached for the buckles. They were stiff, old, but they gave way eventually. I unfastened the straps, lifted the lid. The inside of the suitcase was dark, shadowy. A musty smell drifted out. I peered in, my eyes straining to adjust to the darkness. Shapes, bundles of something, wrapped in cloth. I reached in, pulled one out. It was tied with string. I untied it, unfolded the cloth. Hair, a mass of human hair, pale blonde, fine, like a child's. My stomach lurched. I dropped the bundle back into the suitcase, my hand recoiling as if burned. I stared into the suitcase again, more bundles, different colors, dark brown, light brown, reddish, all hair, all human hair, and something else. At the bottom of the suitcase, smaller shapes. I reached in again, more slowly this time, my fingers brushing against something hard, smooth. I pulled it out. A shoe, small, leather, scuffed at the toe, a child's shoe, then another and another, pairs of tiny shoes, scattered among the bundles of hair. My breath hitched in my throat. This was not right. This was deeply, profoundly not right. I wanted to slam the suitcase shut, throw it away, run. But I was frozen, paralyzed by what I was seeing. At the very bottom, underneath the hair and the shoes, was a stack of papers. Yellowed, brittle paper, flyers. I picked one up, unfolded it carefully. A picture, a child's face. Smiling, missing, the word printed in bold letters across the top. There were more flyers beneath it, each one the same, a different child's face. Each one missing. I flipped through them, my hands shaking violently. Faces stared up at me, frozen smiles, vanished lives. Then I noticed something else. On each flyer, across each face, a mark, a scratch. Deep, gouged lines obliterating the features. Each face was scratched out, every single one. I dropped the flyer, letting it fall back into the suitcase. My mind was reeling, the hair, the shoes, the missing children, the scratched-out faces. It meant something, something terrible. The woman, her questions, my house, my routine, the locks on my doors. It all clicked into place, a sickening, horrifying understanding. She had been sizing me up, assessing me, planning something. And she had left the suitcase, deliberately, as a message, as a warning, or something else entirely I did not understand. I did not want to understand. The light was almost gone now. Darkness surrounded the car. The wind rustled the trees, a whispering sound that seemed to carry secrets. The suitcase lay open beside me, its contents exposed, a silent scream in the gathering gloom. I stared at it, at the bundles of hair, the tiny shoes, the scratched-out faces staring blankly upwards. A coldness spread through me, deeper than the evening chill. A coldness that settled in my bones, a coldness that would not leave. I was alone in the dark lane with the suitcase and its terrible secrets, and the image of the woman's face, that small, chilling smile that did not reach her eyes, imprinted itself into my mind. I knew with a certainty that chilled me to the core that this was not over, not even close. I was driving along a road I did not know very well. It was getting dark, the kind of dark that feels like it swallows everything whole. The road was narrow, twisting between fields that just turned into black shapes either side of me. The headlights only cut out a small tunnel of light in front. I was keen to get home, then I noticed someone by the side of the road. A person. They were standing still on the verge. As I got nearer, I could tell it was a man. He was holding one arm against his chest, leaning slightly like he was hurt or tired maybe. He looked towards the car as I approached. I hesitated. It was a lonely place to be stranded if he needed help. I'm not usually one to stop for strangers, especially not on roads like this in the dark, but he did seem to be in bother. I began to pull over onto the side of the road. As I did, my eyes went past him, up ahead. Just beyond the edge of the road, where the field met a line of bushes and trees, I noticed something. A disturbance, perhaps. Branches moved when there was no wind. Dark shapes within the darker bushes. Something moved there. It was subtle, brief, just enough to catch my attention. It bothered me. It was a sensation more than anything concrete, a prickle at the back of my neck, a feeling that something was not quite right. It was a remote place. Who would be in the bushes there, just at the edge of the field, in the dark? I had almost stopped the car. My foot was pressing the brake pedal, ready to come to a complete halt beside the man, but my mind was now on those bushes, on whatever I had glimpsed there. The man began to move, just a little. He took a step towards the road, as if to make it clear he needed assistance. But his face, briefly caught in the headlights, was hard to read. It was pale, perhaps strained, but it was something else too, something about his eyes. They seemed to reflect the light in a strange way. They were fixed on the car, intensely. The feeling in the pit of my stomach intensified. It was a pull, a sudden urge to just go, to not stop, to keep moving. My foot came off the brake. Instead of stopping, I pressed down on the accelerator. The car lurched forward. The man was suddenly behind me. I glanced in the rearview mirror. He was still stood there watching me go. His posture hadn't changed. He was simply observing me drive away. As I continued along the road, I kept looking in the mirror. I wanted to see if he was still there, to make sure he was just a man needing help, and I had simply been overly cautious. Then, in the mirror, I noticed something emerge from the bushes. Not one thing, but several. Dark forms slipping out from the edge of the field, into the dim light of the roadside. They were tall, thin shapes. They were men too, I realized with a jolt. Not just one, but three of them. They moved out of the darkness and stood on the verge, in the exact spot where the first man had been standing moments before. They watched after me just as the initial man had done. All four of them now in a line at the side of the road. Their faces were just dark shapes in the distance, but I could sense they were all watching me, intently, purposefully. My heart began to race. My hands tightened on the steering wheel. I pressed down harder on the accelerator. The speedometer needle crept higher. I needed to get away from them, away from that road. I drove and drove, not looking back again. I kept thinking about those figures, the man on his own, then the others appearing from the bushes, the way they had all just watched me, those dark shapes in the mirror. I eventually reached a larger road with more cars and lights. The feeling of immediate threat lessened, but it did not disappear entirely. It stayed with me, a cold knot in my stomach. Later that evening, back at home, I put on the news. It was just background noise at first, then something on the screen caught my attention, a news report with police tape in the background. It looked like a road, a rural road. The newsreader was talking about an increase in robberies in the area, isolated locations, drivers being targeted. The report went on to explain how a gang was operating. They were using a lure, someone pretending to be in need of help, to get drivers to stop. Then, as the drivers stopped to offer assistance, the gang would appear from hiding places. They would surround the car, threaten the driver, rob them, sometimes worse. Violent attacks were mentioned, serious injuries. The news report showed a blurred image, like a still from security footage or a dash cam. It was grainy and unclear, but it showed a figure standing by the side of a road, and then other figures emerging from the darkness behind. My blood ran cold. The image flickered on the screen. It could have been the road I had been on. It could have been the man I had almost stopped for. It could have been those figures in the bushes. The news report continued detailing the areas affected, the times of night these incidents were occurring. It matched where I had been, when I had been there. The feelings of disquiet I'd experienced earlier came rushing back, amplified by the stark reality of the news. I sat there still, staring at the television, long after the news report had moved on to another story. The images, the words, played over and over in my mind. The man by the roadside, the disturbance in the bushes, the figures emerging, watching, the chilling possibility of what might have happened if I'd stopped. The feeling did not go away. It stayed, a cold dread settling deep within me. The image of those dark figures standing at the edge of the road, watching me drive away into the night, remained vivid and unsettling. The thought of what their intentions truly were, and what they might do to someone who did stop, was a disturbing weight in my mind. And the knowledge that they were still out there, somewhere in the darkness, continued to haunt me. I drove the lorry through the dark, the road ribboned out in front of me, lit by my headlights and the occasional spill of light from roadside houses. It was a long haul, the kind that blurs the edges of the day and night, just road, engine, and me. Then I saw her. At the side of the road, a figure stood out against the gloom, young, small, an arm raised, waving, flagging me down. I tapped the brakes, indicators blinking, pulling over onto the verge. Dust puffed up as the big wheels crunched to a stop. I leaned across, winding down the window. She started walking towards the cab, quick steps, teenage girl, jeans and a light-coloured top, face pale in the dim light. I could not make out much more than that, but I could see she needed something. Before she reached the door, vehicle lights erupted behind me, blinding white beams filling the mirrors. Another car, far too rapid, screeching tires screaming against the tarmac as it stopped ahead of my lorry, blocking the road. The girl stopped too, looking back towards the car. Confusion flickered across her face. A door of the car flung open. A man exited quickly, large shape against the harsh headlights. He moved with speed towards the girl. She turned then, perhaps to run towards my lorry. No chance. He grabbed her. One hand clamped on her arm, the other around her waist. She made a noise, muffled, swallowed by the engine rumble. He half lifted, half dragged her back to the car. She struggled, legs kicking out, but he was stronger. He shoved her into the back seat, a dark shape disappearing inside the vehicle. The door slammed shut, just like that. My brain stuttered. This was not right. This was terribly, terribly wrong. I jammed the lorry into gear, engine roaring. The car was already moving, pulling away fast. I had to follow. Foot down, the lorry lurched forward, tires spitting gravel. I gained ground for a moment, the red taillights of their car glowing ahead. The road twisted, corners appearing quickly in the beam of my headlights. The car was faster, smaller, more agile. It weaved through the bends, pulling away again. I pushed the lorry harder, engine straining, the bulk of the vehicle struggling to keep pace. The distance widened. Their taillights became smaller, receding points of red in the blackness. Around another bend and they were gone. Vanished. Just road and darkness again. I slammed on the brakes, pulling the lorry to a stop on the side of the road, engine idling loudly in the sudden silence. My hands gripped the wheel tight. What had I just witnessed? It was terrifying, sudden, violent. I needed to call someone. Using my phone, fingers shaking slightly, I dialed the emergency number. Voice strained as I spoke to the operator, explaining what I had just witnessed. The location, the road, the cars, the girl, the man. Abduction. The word hung in the air, heavy and sickening. Police arrived quickly, sirens cutting through the night. Blue lights pulsed, reflecting off the trees. I told them everything again, every detail I could recall. The girl's clothes, the car dark. Could not make out the make or model in the dark, the direction they went. Officers searched the area, torches cutting beams through the undergrowth. Nothing. They took my details, my statement, thanked me for reporting it, said they would investigate, drove away, blue lights fading into the distance, leaving me alone on the side of the dark road. I sat in the cab for a long time after that, engines still running, thoughts racing, images repeating in my mind, the girl's face, the car, the man grabbing her. It played over and over. Sleep was impossible. I eventually started driving again, destination forgotten, just needing to move, to get away from that spot on the road. Days turned into weeks, weeks into months. The long-haul routes blurred together, roads, towns, service stations, repeating patterns. The face of the girl, the abduction, remained sharp in my memory. I kept checking news reports online, listening to the radio. Anything about a missing girl, an abduction, nothing. Perhaps the police had found them, perhaps it was all a misunderstanding. I tried to convince myself of anything that would ease the knot of dread that tightened in my chest whenever I thought about it, but the image of her face, the speed of the car, the man's violence, it all pointed to something terrible. Months passed. The incident began to recede slightly, pushed back by the constant grind of work, the miles eating away at the edges of memory. Not forgotten, but less immediate, less raw. One day I stopped at a roadside diner. Small place, formica tables, plastic chairs, the smell of frying food hanging in the air. Needed coffee, something to eat. I sat at a booth, ordered a greasy breakfast and a mug of strong coffee. Waiting for the food, my gaze drifted around the diner. Posters advertising local events, faded photographs of the surrounding countryside. And then on the wall by the counter, a milk carton. Standard thing in diners, but this one was different. Attached to the side of the milk carton, beneath the nutritional information, was a picture. A photograph of a girl smiling, bright, sunny picture. Underneath the picture, words printed in bold letters. Missing. My breath caught. I stared at the carton, unable to look away. The face in the photograph. I knew that face, recognized it instantly. It was the girl from the roadside. The girl who had flagged me down. The girl taken by the man in the car. I reached out, hand shaking slightly, and picked up the milk carton, turned it slowly in my hands, reading the printed words. Missing, name, Sarah Jenkins, age at disappearance, 14, last seen 3 years ago. 3 years, not months, years. This girl had been missing for 3 years. The abduction I witnessed had not been recent. It had been years ago. And she was still missing. Her picture on a milk carton in a roadside diner years later. No one had found her, no one knew what had happened to her. And I was the only one who had perhaps seen anything at all. The greasy breakfast arrived, placed in front of me by the waitress. I didn't touch it. The coffee sat cooling in the mug. My eyes stayed locked on the photograph on the milk carton. Sarah Jenkins, missing for 3 years. And still no one knew. The rain was coming down hard as I drove along the empty road. It was late and I just wanted to get home. Then I noticed someone by the side of the road, a woman all alone with her head down. I pulled over, not wanting to leave her there in the storm. She rushed to the car, pulling the door open and getting in. She was crying, but she didn't say anything. She just asked if I could take her to the next town. I said yes, of course, and started driving again. She kept her face hidden, turned away from me towards the window. She asked me not to look at her, said she didn't want anyone to see her face. I respected that, focusing on the road ahead, but then I became aware of something else. A breathing sound coming from the back of the car. I glanced in the rearview mirror. Empty, just the dark back seats. The woman was still next to me, still sobbing quietly. It must be my imagination, I reasoned. The wind, maybe. The breathing came again. I checked the mirror once more. This time I actually paused, my gaze fixed on the glass. I could make out a shape in the gloom, something crouched low, almost hidden by the seats. It was dark like soot, twisted, and it was grinning, a wide, impossibly wide grin. My hands froze on the steering wheel. I wanted to scream, but no sound came out. My heart pounded in my chest, a drum against my ribs. I couldn't think, couldn't breathe. My vision tunneled. Suddenly I yanked the steering wheel. The car lurched, tires screeching, and skidded off the road. There was a crash, a jolt that knocked the air from my lungs, and then everything went black. When I opened my eyes, the rain had stopped. The car was still, the engine dead. My head throbbed. I was alone. The woman was gone. The back seat was empty. Sunlight peeked through the trees. I reached out, steadying myself against the dashboard. As I did, I noticed something on the window. A handprint, small like a child's. But it wasn't just a handprint. It was bloody. I got out of the car. I looked around, desperate to see something, anything that would explain what had happened. But there was nothing, just the wrecked car, the empty road, and the trees. My gaze returned to the bloody handprint on the window. It seemed darker somehow, more defined, as if it had just been pressed there. I remained there, staring at it, feeling not safe, not sound, just a building sense of dread.